Stadium empties everywhere we go. Everywhere we go.
Oh man, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Oh,
Oh, well, it is nice to have you on the instant reaction. Um, that was a nice game. That was a nice game to have. It's what we needed. Um, a real palate cleanser, a real
yeah.
just a nice day at the office. What I thought was a starting out of a fairly professional performance that, like, in the end ended up giving us some pretty solid moments and a lot of interesting things to talk about. But of course, it's a little bit saddened with the idea that Bukayo Saka has picked up an injury in the warm up. It's annoying that that happened, but on the whole, the replacement, we had a little bit of a talk about Nani before, but coming back with a really good performance. A lot of players, I think, that needed goals got goals, and 4-0. Anytime you beat somebody 9-0 essentially in the Premier League over two legs, that is going to be an achievement. It is going to be something that you're going to say that's a great job. And Ellen Road is not easy. So especially in the form that they're in. That is a really, really good result. Rohan, why don't you give me your kind of initial thoughts on that? Give me your headline.
Oh, you kind of took the phrase professional performance. I think that's exactly what it was. I do think, despite the 4-0 scoreline, there are things that I do want to talk about that I just don't particularly like, for sure, in terms of the balance. But I think for me, mate, this was very important to just win. I think, when we look at periods in seasons that we've had in the past, and the Mikel, I've spoke about the 3-game cluster that does us damage, and we
Yeah.
have been on the receiving end of that, and this game was therefore vital to get back up to speed and to put pressure on Man City. We've got a big game tomorrow, and I'll be honest, mate, I said to you on TCP Live where this entire week has been annoying because that Man United result has been in my head all week because of the manner of it, and because it was against them, and because I didn't expect that sort of result to occur. And I was looking at Leeds away from home, and I think when you look at Leeds pound for pound, you look at their team, and there's not a lot of quality there, but
Yeah.
they really do cause teams problems at Ellen Road. They've only lost twice this season. I think they've got 2 draws against Liverpool this season so far. If people had watched the game against Man City at the Etihad in the second half, they absolutely battered them, and they were very unlucky not to get anything from that game as well. So with all that in mind, to win in the way that we did, to concede absolutely nothing. And by the way, I want to talk about Saliba and Gabra and the job that they did on Calvert-Lewin today, who is one of the informed strikers in the league. So many positives, and I'm just really happy that we've managed to get past this potential banana skin. I think a lot of people are looking at this fixture as another potential slip up for Arsenal, and we've managed to get past it. So yeah, really happy.
Yeah, and I think fundamentally, Rohan, when you look at something like this, it's just about getting back to basics, earning the right to play, and doing all those things that we really want to do. And it was some really good performances from some people that needed it. I thought Gyökeres had one of his better performances this season. Followed up, he had a good performance versus Leeds last time out, but this
Yeah,
time he was very good in terms of making the ball stick. Going long, he was very good in the air today. He was doing a good job dominating the center backs and actually pinning, not just being there to do it. He was actually pinning, and he was doing a good job to work off Kai. And generally speaking, the game I thought started a little slow. There was a bit of a basketball match in which, I felt like we and Leeds were both trying to get into the game. And there was just this period in which we were going long. Leeds were going long. The game wasn't being played in midfield. And then, we did get our foot on the ball a little bit later towards the first half. And, things started to play. Things started to open up for us. I think that Nani Madueke is maybe, a conversation that we can have a little bit later. Definitely was more vertical, definitely was pushing the issue. And, he was doing a lot of the things in terms of what we needed, just providing a little bit more cutting edge. And, I definitely want to talk about the dynamic of, Declan Rice a little bit deeper and Martin Zubamendi a little bit higher in the pocket. Going to revisit my Gundogan take because there were some things that he was showing in the final third, mate, that was really, really good. But generally speaking, mate, bar the injury, it's like the perfect way to go. If the injury didn't happen, I would sat here saying perfect game, perfect, way to start the weekend,
yeah.
and a perfect way to just to lift, and I think that it's important. Like the club needed it. Not that I think that the players needed it necessarily, but I think the club needed it just to shush.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it's exactly that. It kind of reminds me of last season when we played against Palace away from home towards the back end of December, and we'd beaten them 5-2 in that game.
yeah,
Saka had an injury. The only difference was he picked up the injury during the game, and today he picks up that injury, and we've had a really big scoreline away from home. So there's a bit of a similarity there, and I agree. I think the only real negative is that injury. I mean,
yeah.
kind of looking at you, George, to tell me if it's going to be all okay. To be honest, but, yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like the individuals, I think Victor Gyökeres had a really good game. Like I think in his first half we were messaging. I thought he was becoming he was a lot more of a nuisance. He was pinning. I
Yeah.
think Pascal Struijk a few times, that he managed to pin back to goal and then laid off for a nearby Kai Havertz to meet. He was doing that a lot better in this game, and the goal was really good from him in terms of the movement and also the cross from Martinelli. Martinelli, over the past few weeks, some of his deliveries. We're talking about that Trivela pass to get us going for the third goal against Inter. He delivered a Trivela cross for Martin Ødegaard in the second half against Kairat. And today with his weaker left foot, putting in a really dangerous area. So
Maybe we do a Martinelli section a little bit later down the line. I don't want to bleed into it from the Gyökeres section, but
yeah,
we probably will. I've been saying that Martinelli's been bubbling for a while this season.
yeah,
But yeah, in terms of the Gyökeres, it was also really good movement as well because even on the cross when Martin Odegaard sends Martinelli out, Gyökeres makes a peel cross front and then peels back post. Exactly the kind of things that we're asking him a bit more of, and does a really good job. And I was just more impressed with the out, like between the box kind of things where he was definitely being more of a reference, and it was actually kind of Kai floating in moments as well, which worked really well. So I thought that was a really good performance by Victor Gyökeres. Probably one of his better ones in an Arsenal shirt as far as being complete,
100%.
not just the
Yeah,
goal, but like his overall play, making it stick. Also, some of the things that he was doing in terms of I think getting the ball under control and keeping it in the final third. Like those
yeah.
are some really important things. It wasn't just about dueling. It was actually a reference and it worked. Like it really helped get us up the pitch because when you have somebody or something up there to basically bring the ball down and allow you to get up the pitch, you're going to be able to keep it. So that was a really promising performance by him. Mate, in terms of anything that changed for you, do you think that there was anything major structurally that changed? I mean, this is the first time that maybe we're talking about a little 4-4-2 in its truest form.
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to go as hard as structural. I mean, the players make your system perform in different ways just because of the nature of the profiles, but
yeah.
it was a 4-4-2 proper, something we haven't seen Mikel do. Something I always felt like we could do and something I felt like we would do eventually. But how did you make the 4-4-2 and even the press? I thought there was just some small tweaks. There was a lot of times instead of a 4-4-2, it was like almost a 2-4-4 in the way
Mm,
that we were pressing Leeds.
yeah.
But what did you make of some of the changes that we made?
Yeah, I mean, like I always say, it's I find it difficult to really talk about some of the intricacies in the first watch because I don't really look out for them. But I mean, this is kind of one of the negatives that I did have at the game where Gyökeres and Havertz together as a pairing. I'm not overly keen on it personally. In a game against Leeds, which actually I was quite surprised with Leeds' approach, in which I thought they would have been a lot more aggressive in their press. Instead, they weren't as aggressive and sat off a little bit more.
Yeah.
So then it was again a game where the onus was on us when we had the ball to take the initiative. And when you have someone like Victor Gyökeres and Kai Havertz, you're talking about a very direct game naturally because they provoke that sort of situation. And Leeds are already going to be provoking a direct game as well. And that's why I thought in the first, before we got the goal, there was a long period of the game in which the ball is just in the air. It's loose balls. Who's looking to latch onto it? And that's where the game became really difficult to watch. And I feel like there were frustrations there before we did manage to break the game open with the goal. Because obviously when you have someone like Kai Havertz there playing nominally at right centre mid and you've got Victor Gyökeres as your centre forward, there, we don't have a true lock picker there, between lines who is going to be there stationed, who can receive on the half turn and then make something happen with an eye of the needle ball in behind or, a carry. I think this is very much a game in which we're looking to flood the box, numbers there, height there.
Yeah.
And I felt like that's where I was upset with the Saka injury because not only do I want to see more of Saka with Kai Havertz, I felt that was a connection that we've not been able to see enough of that was developing really well before before Saka got his injury last season. Then Kai got the injury, and now it's kind of, we're in a position where it's roles reversed now. Kai's back and Saka's picked up an injury, which hopefully isn't too big. So yeah, but overall, I think like I like the idea in games in which there's going to be more space to maneuver in, but I'm not too keen on it in an environment that we saw today, because I felt that we weren't able to really sustain a lot of pressure before we did get that goal. Second half, though, I mean, as the game opens up, you saw some of the way that we were playing. We were purring, mate. So yeah, that's my negative, though. That's my slight negative. I'm not overly keen on the Gyökeres Havertz combination in that sort of environment. So yeah,
I thought this was a very physical game in general. Like the demands were quite physical. I mean, Leeds really come on to you. They press hard. There was a lot of demands in terms of competing aerially and for the second balls and making sure that you're going to go up and down consistently each match, right? So, and even the substitutions, I thought Odegaard and Martinelli, who came in, really helped with the physicality of it quite a bit too. We'll probably have a section on those two a little bit later in the positives. I thought, if I'm going to do a slight negative, unfortunately, I'm going to say our fullbacks as a pair frustrated me, and I grouped both Yuri Timber and Pierre Hincapié there.
Yeah.
I think Timber later in the second half produced maybe his best cross I've seen in an Arsenal shirt. But then other than
Jesus.
that, for Jesus. And I thought, okay, there we go. There's one. But in general, I thought Yuri Timber struggled in the final third. I thought he slowed things down a bit. I thought that he was too indecisive in terms of what he wanted to do and relies a little bit too much on that Cruyff turn to get him out of trouble to then recycle. But it slows the play down, and he almost brings defenders with him. Like, they get a chance to set when he is indecisive like that. He's got the technique, because again, I mentioned that Jesus cross because he's got it in him. He's got the technique to do it. But far too often, I feel that he's indecisive about his confidence in the cross, just whipping it in and sending it to the area. Or at times, his indecisiveness leads to a recycled ball that ends up slowing the play down, letting defenders set. So for me, Yuri Timber struggled in the final third a little bit today. And then Pierre Hincapié, another one who I felt like was fine, but didn't give me the offensive contribution that I'd like to see in the final third, especially on those early crosses. There was a lot of times that, Pierre Hincapié had moments in that half to send the ball a little bit early. And if it's not like a simple pass to the wing, or if it's not a simple clip ball down the line, Pierre Hincapié doesn't use his technique on the run, which he does have. Like, he has that cross, and I just don't think that I've seen it. And it's frustrating, because it's the one crossing technique that I really feel that he's got in his locker. And I'm not too sure why he doesn't do it enough. When we've seen it in moments, you see the quality when he does it. But the fact that he's continuing to refuse not to release is frustrating. And I think it contributed to that first half in which both fullbacks, for me, really struggled to involve themselves in the game. And so it kind of became a ping pong match centrally. And whose leads, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin versus Gyökeres, who was going to be the more secure between the two, was going to get a foothold in the game. And luckily for us, I think Victor won that battle compared to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And I think that's what allowed us to kind of get a foothold in the game. But other than that, I just thought our fullbacks struggled in this match. They struggled to combine. They struggled to really provide the final third impetus that I think we might need. So that was probably my slight negative, generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, so this was obviously a very much a game that transpired of one in which you're looking at the fullbacks as what are they really going to give us in the final third? Because there was nothing really to do from a defensive standpoint, barring the long balls that were delivered into the channels in which they had to meet and be convincing in that aspect. But I think with Hincapié, I said in TCP Live, but just I think Hincapié is a player who is a good player, but I just don't see any outstanding qualities. Now that might be really harsh, and I think you can certainly caveat the fact that he had a surgery before joining. He had no preseason. It's a new league, different environment, physically more demanding. These are all things that you certainly do have to consider. And we will always reevaluate as more games are played and we see more. But I just feel with Hincapié, when he does receive wide, he's not someone who I feel is going to be able to burst past his man from a standstart and then whip in the ball. I feel like the cross that he's going to be able to deliver is one when he's on the run and then being able to deliver it so that he can create the separation with momentum as opposed to receiving it standing still. And I also think when I look at him, he's quite stiff in how he turns. Not to say he's not quick. I think he's got a decent acceleration, but I feel like I'm not. I need to see more of him as a fullback because at the moment I looked at that performance and I thought it was very much a nothing performance from Nketiah. And then when we look at him as a centre back, again, does he have the outstanding qualities on the ball to progress play? Is he dominant in the box in those sorts of situations when dealing with crosses? These are the question marks I do have, I think, Nketiah, in which if he has that outstanding quality of, going on the outside with momentum and then delivering across, is that worth the 45 million that we'll be paying for him, come the summer? So these are things that I do question with Nketiah, and that might come across very harsh, but yeah, that's just the way I see it. And in terms of Timber, yeah, I mean, he was frustrating in that first half with his delivery. But I did think he picked up in the second half, as you alluded to, with some really good deliveries. But yeah, I feel like, in hindsight, maybe perhaps, if you look at a Ben White, I think a Ben White would have been a better fit for this game, given how it transpired and what was to come. But at the same time, I think going to Ellen Road, I did think that it would be a lot more difficult than what it actually was. So I think that's where the Timber selection does come into play as well. So, yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with our midfield that I actually thought did a really good job. So, moving towards, the Declan Rice and the Zubamendi conversation, the benefits that Zubamendi offers us in the final third, really, really strong. I think it's tough to get around. I think Madueke is probably one that deserves his own section, to be honest with you. Same as Odegaard and Martinelli. Those three really stuck out to me. Kind of already talked about Gyökeres, but I just wanted to really quickly touch on that midfield dynamic of Zubamendi and Rice, where Zubamendi's a little bit farther forward and Declan Rice is a little bit more deeper, especially in a physical game when you're going long like that. These are the small tweaks that make the difference, Rohan, that I don't think we've always got right in the last couple of weeks. It makes sense to have that partnership do that. And then, for me, when Zubamendi's in the final third, some of the stuff that he was doing, not just the run, which was super intelligent, the timing in terms of his goal with that Madueke cross, which is brilliant, but even the way that he takes certain and stops momentum, like the one-touch Cruyff turn that he receives from the right-hand side just to open himself up to turn in the box is just so smooth. And, he's got so much potential in the final third.
Yeah, he has it, doesn't he? It's like you can see the talent. The talent is undeniable. He can beat his man with ease. And I think that was a massive game for Noni because, naturally as a forward, he's not an idiot, right? He will be very well aware that when he looks at the numbers and he's not produced anything by the book this season in the league, right? He's had games where he's been threatening, but we need more from him in terms of output. And I felt that he was a threat throughout the entire game, which is always the case with Noni. But then he also gave some really good quality, in which he should have got a second assist as well with the Timber header in the second half from the corner as well. So, yeah, I feel like that was what Noni delivered in that game, in that moment for the first goal, is what I felt was the idea with Bukayo Saka in this game as well. With the bodies that were going to get into the box and with the additional height of having Kai in there as well. So yeah, I think that was massive for Noni. And with the Saka injury, hopefully not too long, but I'd assume he's not going to be ready for next week at least. Well, yeah. Let's assume he's not. I think Noni's got an opportunity here with a run of games now to stamp his authority, because it's never been about the talent. It's now about productivity. And I feel like when we look at Noni and we just say, well, he's managed Saka's minutes this season. Personally, I want more, and it's games like today in which is exactly why we bought Noni, and it's that level of productivity that we do need, and we should be demanding that as well, because if we're sitting back and just saying he just needs to manage Saka's minutes, then we're not really truly rating the player anyway then. So we have to keep the bar at a certain level. So yeah, but really good from him. And yeah, and Martinelli when he came on as well, it's a really good day for the forwards. We haven't had many of those. We have not had many of those. It was a very good day for the forwards. And there's a lot that you could talk about. I thought the response by Martin Odegaard was brilliant. Comes on the pitch, I think he kept care of the ball, but he was a little bit more willing to pass forward. I mean, the goals come from his ability to just release, right? The intention of the forwards was definitely to play forward. And so for me, that was brilliant, right? Martin Odegaard drifting off to the left. I know on the Cannon podcast, we've talked about this at length. I've talked about my
want for Martin Odegaard to drift to the left a lot more, because I think it makes him a bit more direct. It makes him a bit more willing to play the first time pass. And when he does it, he's got the vision, he's got the pace of pass. Like it's a natural thing for me to see him being able to go into those zones and offer us something different there. And, he was really, really good. Martinelli, I thought, was brilliant. Like, you had mentioned that weak foot cross as well. But, even the way that they came onto the pitch, and again, the energy that they brought, because Ellen Road is one of those grounds that I think it can go wrong very quick. All it needs is one spark plug. And, look,
it's like the bowling, George. The old bowling, the West Ham ground, right? It's it's a when you watch it, you look at how close the fans are. It creates this atmosphere, and it is really hostile, and that is why teams have struggled there this season. I don't think any of the. I think maybe Spurs won early in the season, but the big teams so far at Ellen
struggled generally.
Have struggled. So. Yeah, it's a massive win, mate. It is a massive win.
It's a big win. Yeah. It's a big win. And of course, Jesus coming in, which I thought really good take on his goal as well. Like brilliant pass from Martin Odegaard. But, the take that he's got, being strong in the box to hold off and then find the corner there is really good as well. I think, like you said, if I actually had to headline, my headline probably would have been a good day for the forwards, which is not something that we've been able to say very often.
Everybody ate.
Everybody ate today, which is really nice. I don't know. Maybe they snuck off to Dubai in the interim. So we'll quickly share the stats. We'll go through the stats, and then we'll get to your super chats before we sign off. So in terms of the stats, this is what it is. 4-0, a beautiful score line. Expected goals, 2.4 to 0.02. We've got 7 open play shots to their 2. Passes were almost equal. Of course, winning on field tilt, which is all that really matters. And, as we go through our zone 14 touches, actually surprised at that statistic, that they had equal central touches as we did in 14 apiece. That's kind of an interesting stat. I didn't really see that from the game, but our threat was absolutely incredible. So, it kind of shows you how much of a basketball game it's really turned out to be. And I think that we really turned on the heat in the second half. And, there is something to be said where I felt that Arsenal, this team, are a second half team, generally speaking. And a lot of our chances seem to come in the second half. But this is brilliant. All the XG and all the danger areas where you want it in the box and in that 6-yard box, which is something I've liked to see us do a little bit more of. It's always the hardest to create in those areas, but they're always the most potent. And that field tilt looks beautiful. Especially, it's interesting to see Leeds have a little bit more opportunity in the second half, which I definitely think they brought their A game, in the second half, it definitely doing a bit more. But Rohan, I think for me, when you have a look at this, what do you take from this performance going into the week, especially when you understand that we had to create a response, we did it. 4-0. This is a way in order for us to shut down on some of the doubt with it, for sure. Everybody got a little bit of action as far as goals go.
Yeah,
this was a really nice day, bar the injury to Saka. What do you take, I guess, going into what is a second leg of a semifinal at this point? And, the Chelsea aspect of it all. Like, is there anybody that gave you second thought as far as your first team? Is there anybody that you felt like, would you like to see the Kai Gyökeres dynamic versus Chelsea? Like, where do you stand on what this performance did for you next week?
I really do want to see Eze there. In that position. So like in terms of the Kai and Gyökeres dynamic, I think there's certainly games for it. And it'll be interesting to see how Chelsea do set up, because maybe the Kai Gyökeres dynamic will work a little bit better against Chelsea, given what they do need to do in this game, because the onus is more on them to take the initiative in the second they're being a goal behind. So in terms of other individuals, I'd still really like to see Eze. I think Eze needs to get a run of games. And I think that we could really extract a lot of goods in the second half of the season with him. I mean, you say it about second half Eze. I feel like when he came on, he looked really good. Some of the touches, really clean. And, Martinelli as well. I think Martinelli's making a shout for a start as well, I think he's been playing really... I think overall this season, Martinelli is one of our underrated performers. The Champions League performances speak for themselves. He's had really big moments in the Premier League as well. Obviously very early on in the season, that goal against City at the Emirates, we could look back at that as a really vital moment. I think he's gone slightly under the radar this season, personally. But yeah, outside of that, I think it's going to be very much more the same. I think it was good to see Calafiori come on as well. I thought Calafiori was really good. Some of his movement and some of the passing. And I just think that left-hand side, when we're talking about connections, I think the connection that Trossard and Calafiori do have, it's one that is really strong. I will say that with Trossard, I thought he played well today, but I think his level has slightly dipped in recent weeks, Trossard. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on for sure. But I feel like we should talk a little bit about Zubimendi, before we do get into the super chats, because that's his second goal, headed goal this season. The first one came against Forest, and now today as well. He's really good in the air, and he's got a really good feel for finding space in those areas. His timing, his precision, and his accuracy as well. He could have had more goals this season as well. It's not luck that he constantly finds himself in these spots. It's just super intelligent. So
yeah, man. Like I said it. Like when I was scouting him, I was telling people, I go, look, he is not just a deep lying playmaker. This is a guy that can receive high in the pockets and affect play because his spatial understanding is just absolutely incredible. Like he can find space from anywhere, but also his technique. He's not rushed. He's just naturally a very composed player, especially with a lot of physical contact from behind him, in front of him. It doesn't really matter. His initial instinct to turn and spin into space is something that's incredible. So his ability to create that separation for me is why it translates anywhere across the pitch. Then you add the spatial understanding about when to make the runs, the third man runs, who to isolate, where to pop into. It's all very decisive with limited touches. If you want to be nerdy, the touch economy, how often he needs to really make an impact with the amount of touches he has is minimal. So I really don't think that we've seen I don't know, probably the tip of the iceberg as far as what we can see in the final third to me. Like I really feel that Zubimendi as an 8 is something that's gonna be spoken about in the next 4 months. It's going to be spoken about, moving forward. He's going to give us that utility, and there's a lot of reason to be said that, he's somebody that, could really help, especially in the pockets. So, yeah, Zubimendi I thought was brilliant. And you know what? There's also just times when I laugh because I just see Rice breaking through midfield, carrying it from our own end to the other, and I'm just like, we have a unicorn, and it's just not even. It's not.
But
fair.
also, like near the end, just chill now. It's all right. Game's done. We don't need any of that. So he was fantastic today as well, right? Just a hoover. He's a hoover in the midfield. Just mops up everything.
He's a cheat code, mate. He's a cheat code. There's just no one like him in world football, and he's ours. That's the only thing I can say. And Mikel had a really brilliant embargoed quote about him, about his, his potential being limitless. And we talk about Saka having that downloading package when he was, earlier. Rice has a bit of that. Like absolutely every season, this guy adds things. I mean, for God's sakes, our throw-ins were crap except for Rice. Like, and he's taking it on in stride. And then, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking the way that he was offering himself up in build up today was really strong. Yeah. Like he was proper showing for people, and he was proper showing to make space for himself, and the care that he took in his receiving off the back foot today was very, very good. And I know that's one of his very few weaknesses. So I thought that was really nice to see.
100%. I also think we should quickly give a mention to Gabriel Jesus, because that cameo was fantastic. I mean, he should have scored the header from the timber cross, but it wouldn't be a game without Gabriel Jesus. Big chance missed. But the finish, the turn back to goal, rolled his man, created a separation, and bang. By the way, though, Darlow, good lord. Good lord.
I don't know if he's a real keeper. I like
goodness me, because oh my god,
on the Noni goal from the corner, and then some of the saves he made. Okay, yes, directly at you, but this guy is just he must give them stress. I don't know. I haven't watched Leeds like that, but I don't know if he's a real goalkeeper. All right, so let's go towards your super chats, guys. Thank you so much. Of course, you guys can also send in your super chats normally, or you guys can also become a member, and we do a lot of different stuff for our members, both YouTube and Patreon members. You can join in a link down below. All that fun stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, do those things if you guys do enjoy the content. And she keeps on rolling. Okay, a couple of super chats here. One from @PegasusSnoops. Member for 2 years. Well, thanks, mate. Eze had a great game, rewarded with the 10 versus Leeds, and also building off, what is Trossard showing us currently that Eze can't? I kind of saved the Eze conversation because I was seeing this happen in the super chat.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on it? Look, I was full of praise with Eze after Kuwait, and I thought it was due. Um, I thought that this is a guy that gives us something completely different in the 10. He gives this team a different level of central progression. And, after a really strong performance, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you. And I think we were both discussing that we would have liked to see Eze start the match as far as, what we would have looked towards. But
Yeah.
is there something to get worried? Because at some point, like, I don't want to dismiss people who are valid in terms of the amount of game times he's had since mid-December to now, right?
Yeah.
And, at the same token, you want to balance that with how many minutes he's had for Palace, and they're really not substantially different. I mean, there are a little bit less, but it's not substantially different. However, when you are a team that is asking for a little bit more in the pockets, and you've got one of the best pocket players in the Premier League, especially post-February Eze about to come into it, I do seem to feel with Trossard not at the optimal level, and there are ways to get him in, and with Odegaard not in form, I am starting to say if this was to continue for another couple of weeks, it's completely valid. I mean, even now, I think it's completely valid to ask what the involvement is like, because when he's played for me, he's been impactful. And we kind of went through his big moments in the last pod on TCP Live. So I don't even think it's a form issue. I don't even think it's a thing where I'd say that he's been bad, that he doesn't deserve to play. In fact, I think he's been good. And I think he's been learning things out of possession. There are things he can improve on out of possession. But I think he's done a huge stride of improvement from the start of the season about understanding where to be in the press. Like, I don't look at him as a weak cog that he can't do the press. I don't look at that. And I look at the things that he can offer us on the ball, and I'm thinking to myself, there's definitely scope for him to be involved more. But what did you think about the Eze minutes and the Eze conversation?
Yeah, well, just quickly, I'll read in the chat, and we are negative, George. We're two negative Nancys apparently. And this
For what?
I don't know. I've no idea. I don't know what these people listen to. I don't know what's the name. It's yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. In terms of Eze, yeah, I think people are right to ask the question. I don't. It's kind of like the balance, right? It's am I worried about Eze's future at Arsenal and what Mikel sees in the player? Absolutely not. No, Mikel obviously loves Eze, but at the same time, I really do feel there have been games over the past few weeks in which we could have seen more of Eze, especially when Trossard's level has it has dipped a little bit. I mean, most of the forwards level haven't been to the standards that we'd expect really throughout the season, but I think Eze. I really do believe if we can give Eze a run of games, whether it's on the left or in midfield or on the right-hand side nominally, I think he can really impact proceedings. And actually, when I look at some of his performances recently, I'd urge people to watch back that Kairat game. He was really good, and I think sometimes when we confine ourselves to just the numbers and output, we don't get to see the impact that a player is truly having. It's the same as that Inter game as well, in which he wasn't outstanding, but some of the play and the intricacies between the lines, being someone there, just allowed the game to flow in moments, And I think I look at Eze and I look at Trossard, and I see a lot of transferable qualities there in terms of how they do interpret the left-hand side and what that could do, and what we could get from Eze as someone who, in terms of magic moments, he can give that, in which Trossard has given us as well. So, yeah, I do want to see more of him. I do think he'll start against Chelsea in the cup. If he doesn't start against Chelsea, I'd be really frustrated because we're at a time now where I want to see Eze being given responsibility in games that matter. Do you know what I mean? Like so far against Kairat, it's not a game that really matters. Against Inter, gets the start. It's a nice start for him, but again, in the grand scheme of things, there's no jeopardy on the line there. I think Eze needs to be in games now in which there's jeopardy. And I think it can really impact proceedings for us. So,
yeah. I mean, I think that the frustration is valid. I think that he's been playing well. And I think that if I was to see it continue, I'd have a lot more questions and it'd be a lot more dominant conversation for me. There's a part of me, and I don't know why, I just do feel that they've held him back as far as a little bit of a fitness thing. But it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, fine. Like you did that for a couple weeks, right? Like throughout the busy Christmas period, but now we need you and it's continuing. So now it's going a little bit beyond that. So from my perspective, I think that Eze's been really good in the last couple matches. I think that Eze's been somebody that definitely deserved more minutes. But, when you're kind of 1-4-0, it's not time to talk about maybe Eze. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Like Broadley deserves more minutes, need to see him more involved. But, as far as a 4-0 win against Leeds goes, happy days, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then this is from Timo Sullivan. Can we give Gyökeres some credit, please?
We did! What? Oh, for God's sake. I don't understand this. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But I really don't... Because I'm not used to IRs. I'm clearly not used to IRs. What are we talking about? We just did. What should we talk about in the whole IR?
Yeah, I think to be fair...
That's actually really rude. Come on, man. What are you doing?
Rowan, you're the greatest. Welcome to the IR, my friend. No, I think Timo did talk about it a little bit earlier, to be fair. I know we definitely did talk about Gyökeres. So if you wanted to see that, there was a little bit earlier in the pod. 100% we've talked about him and how he had a very good performance. One of his better performances this season.
That was too much. Sorry.
This is from @Mike Watts. Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, absolute monsters. Yeah, like the physical level that we have been showing has been absolutely incredible. And I think Havertz coming back is key from simple game life. Look, there's a lot of things that you can see immediately that Havertz does and gives this squad that he didn't. The one thing is I felt like actually he was kind of like in and out of the game today, like had good moments, bring the ball down, but like all in all, he was just good. It wasn't like Karate, which I thought Karate, he's really stamping his, his foot on the game in a sense, but it's brilliant to have him back. The rotation in terms of what we can do with this squad is brilliant with him in the squad. So that's obviously very key. And this is from @Akash. We played well as game state suited us more to do. Yeah, I mean, I think the game state was like a kind of thing where it was very transitional, right? It was very transitional. Yeah. Leeds came onto us. There was a press, but, we still had to play through the press. I think Manchester United, they were also a team that kind of came onto us. We just didn't deal with that pressure well enough technically, And so this type of game, I don't think is a given that Arsenal will do well across. I mean, our next Premier League game is Sunderland, I think, right? But at home.
But it's at home. I think that's a massive difference, right? So
so I don't think that we'll see the same transitional nature. Normally, away days, if you're down in like a Sunderland, a Leeds, one of those things, these are tough grounds where people send it long, and you've got to have your technical wits about you. And I think we did in this match. I think we did struggle in the first 20 minutes or so, but then afterwards really got our foot on the ball, and I felt like there was a lot more comfortability in terms of what I was seeing from the team technically. And then this is from @GIA8888. Didn't manage to catch the game, but after seeing the results, I can sleep happy. How well did we play out of 10? What would you give us your rating out of 10?
I can relate to this super chat so much. I genuinely, if Arsenal didn't win today, I'm not watching any other football this weekend. I'm just not going to watch. I'll in the end watch the Man City game. But now I can watch the Chelsea, which apparently Chelsea are losing. I can watch the Liverpool game. I can be stress free. I can sleep well, and it's a good day. So in terms of out of 10, now there were some negatives which we have spoken about. But like most are saying, a 4-0 win at Ellen Road, a hostile atmosphere, a potential banana skin. I'd give it an 8. I'd give it an 8 for sure.
I thought 8 as well. I don't know if it's a landmark performance, but result was brilliant. And the forwards 8, which is something that I don't think we was able to see for a lot of the season. So it wasn't perfect. It wasn't minute to 90, in the 9 out of 10 category. It wasn't against some, like a Bayern or opponent that you're going to say this is like defining our season. But it was a very good performance off of what needed to be. And, you could even make the argument 8.5, given the context post-United. There is an argument to even squeak it up into an 8.5, just under the context of what we've been performing, especially in that cluster of 3 results where I don't think we took maximum points that we could have. So, 8 to 8.5 for me in there. And then this is from @JoshMiller33. Come on, you.
Yes, no, absolutely. I'm shameless. Come on, you Spurs tomorrow. Come on, you Spurs. I don't understand this, George, right? I don't get this where people are like, oh, now, we can't say that. We don't like them. It's like, well, is Spurs taking a result yesterday going to benefit Arsenal? Yes. So we are Spurs fans tomorrow, guys. We're all Spurs fans. So yeah, that's how I see it.
There you go. You have it. Rohan's a Spurs fan. From at Timo, I put the Gyökeres comment much earlier. Yeah, no worries, mate. We saw that.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Genuinely, I feel horrible now. I genuinely sorry. Really, that's true. That's from the heart. Like, sorry. Yeah.
Ryan's too nice for this. At Finsbury Phil, so many options in midfield. Good, or is stability better? I mean, I think as far as midfield goes, it's one of the few positions, kind of like a center back partnership, where I do find stability for me personally is something that you build off of, but more so in the back six. Like, I do think in forward areas, stability isn't always needed. It's actually probably, let me put it to you this way: like in an attacking midfielder or wingers or strikers, I think that the forward areas can deal with change the most.
Yep.
When you start to introduce too much change anywhere from deeper up the pitch, it's harder. So the further back you go, the worse that change becomes, and then the higher up you go up the pitch, the better change can be, or more willing that you can accommodate change. So yeah, I thought generally speaking, there's a lot of stuff to say. In midfield, and the fact that we have so many different profiles is only a positive for me. It just means that we can change the game in different areas in different ways. So
I also do feel that with the Kai Havertz selection today. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it had a massive impact on Mikel's decisions to play him in that role. But Leeds this season, they are alongside us and another team. It might be Man United, who are very good at set pieces as well. So having someone like Kai Havertz there alongside Gyökeres. By the way, Gyökeres has been very good in defending corners for us this season. He's kind of really taken up that role.
Where Kai used to do.
Yeah. He like Gyökeres. Kai would defend the near post really well, and Gyökeres, since he's came, we've not conceded any set piece goals, in which I'm looking at Victor Gyökeres. So that speaks volumes on the impact that he's had there. So having two guys there who are very switched on as well, and Leeds had quite a few corners today as well. So, and we dealt with them pretty well. So yeah.
Yeah, very good. And then moving on to at Jericho Jackson 1571. Hey Rohan, I am the New Zealander that you met on the platform at BNS Station last week. Top guy, keep it up. Not sure if you touched on it yet, but thoughts on Eze long term. Kai starting at 10. You met Jericho?
Oh my god, this guy was so nice, like so nice from New Zealand. Yeah, it was really good to see you. Yeah, I was shocked first, thinking, I got a bit worried first, thinking, what have I done anything? And then, but it was really nice. No, but thank you so much for the super chat. In terms of Eze long term, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued in terms of where Mikel sees him. In terms of like his predominant position. I kind of did feel when we signed Eze in the summer, it was more about adding someone who adds skills to the team that lacks his skill set, really. As opposed to confining him in a specific position, but the same time, he's going to be playing in a specific position eventually, surely. So, and it's a case of whether it's on the left wing, whether it's in left central midfield, in which, if we look at Eze's minutes so far since Wolves at home, he's not played on the right hand side of midfield. He's played more through the left, and that's been consistent. When Marino and Eze have been paired together, it's been Marino on the right. It's been Eze on the left, so there could be something there as well.
I just can't hide it. I think he's going to become very important in the run-in. I look at Eze, and to me, that's a starter. I said it, in the summer, and I feel like there's a lot to come from Eze, and I think he's been very good. Like, I don't even think that it's been a case in which he's been poor. I don't think he's got the minutes, and I don't think he's got the minutes he's deserved at times. There was moments in which I think that he can let the game pass him by, in which he does have a little bit of the attacking midfielder bug, in which you're not in the game until you are kind of vibe. And there is a bit about that, but he's just very good at providing moments, providing himself an option. And if he can be a bit more intentional, then absolutely, it's more of a tweak than a major issue for me. And I just think that he's got a lot more to show. I genuinely do. I think that there's some big moments that we're due in the run-in that I think Eze is going to be huge for. And I think he's going to be really big in the Champions League. The idea that space, I think that'll suit Eze so much, especially in the latter stages, especially when this team technically has the ability sometimes to lose themselves. And that is a technician. And I think that, your Odegaards, your Sakas, like, even your Trossards, like those who are really good at retaining the ball, your Kai Havertz who can retain it, we're going to need that later in the season. So really looking forward to seeing what Eze has in the back half of the season. So I think that's pretty much it, Wohan. You made it. You survived an IR. So guys, thank you so much. Make sure you guys say nice things in the chat about Wohan for coming on. It's dragging this guy. It's dragging this guy, kicking and screaming. But I think he's a sweetheart. So,
I'll get used to it. I was looking at some of the comments and thought, what? What? I'm just baffled. Like I completely got the Hincapié stuff. Maybe I am a bit harsh. I completely got that. But some of the other stuff, just not listening. I don't get it. I find it baffling. But, it
is so funny seeing you get your training wheels on in this sense. At Pegasus Snoobs, get the likes in, guys. Come on. Yes, absolutely, guys. Please definitely get the likes on. We all love you guys. We're gonna come back with a ton of different content this week, as usual. Potentially a cheeky announcement next week as well. A lot of new things coming to the podcast. You got your main pods, you got your scouteds, you got your rewatches, you got your IRs, you got your academy pods, you got all that good stuff and more. And if you really like, you can drop down a link down below, become a YouTube member or a Patreon member. And we love you all the same. Even if you guys want to just stick for free and you want to stick around and just say hi to us in the chat. So thank you so much. Thank you, Rohan.
Nice one. We'll be back for another IR. I'll be there. I will be here.
He will be here. And thank you for sticking with us. And thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Ferocious.